seems to have sought refuge at the courts, that's the judiciary. And as well, being a believer of God, he believes that would save him from his ouster. Listening.
Imani kubwa sana na mahakama zetu. Our judiciary is very professional, and I have no doubt in my mind that our eminent judges will protect and uphold the Constitution, the rule of law. So watu wa Kenya wako na imani sana, and they have faith that our courts of law will protect and uphold our Constitution, and most importantly, always protect the will of the people, because the people are supreme. Irrespective ya ile tatokea, nataka kuuliza amani katika hii Embu, katika Mlima Kenya, katika Kenya nzima. Sisi tuko na nchi ya Kenya, hatuna nchi nyingine, na hii nchi ni yetu. Kwa hivyo watu wa Embu, mlichagua mimi na President William Ruto, mkatupatia kura zenu zote. Tungeuliza uamuzi wa raia uheshimike.
Sheila, a total of 22 cases have been lodged in various courts, and Justice Lawrence Mugambi of the High Court requested, or actually ordered, that an empanelment of 3 judgments is done by the Chief Justice. The Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua began with an apology. He then sought, of course, to persuade Kenyans before going to Parliament. He put a spirited defense at the National Assembly. However, 282 members voted in support of the motion, against 44. Now he will be facing the Senate. But he appears to have lost faith with the Senate. That's why he's talking about the courts already.
I think, Chacha, this is the clearest demonstration by the political class of just the lack of prioritization. I think when we're seeing the kind of activism and mobilization by the political class that has happened around this, while we have several pressing issues within the country. First, I would like to say that the Deputy President and the President were elected on the same ticket. That is number one. I cannot sit here and defend anything that the Deputy President is doing. Because for me, I think the Gen Z protest demonstrated that it was a failure of the government. And when we say government, we say both the President and the Deputy President. It wasn't one or the other. Now, if we had a case where we had a working government, if this was a government that was actually performing, doing what it's supposed to do, the roads were good, we did not have striking teachers, striking people in the medical profession, and then the Deputy President was the issue, then we would say, okay, fine, focus on the Deputy President, because as you can see, the President is busy performing and doing what he's supposed to do. But that is not the case. I think the protest showed that there was a complete incompetence in this administration, and that was a signal that was sent to the entire administration, not just the Deputy President, because I think removing the Deputy President will not change much. And then we are seeing a case where it has been record speed of members of Parliament actually coming together, forming their opinions, going back down, getting public participation on an issue like the impeachment of the Deputy President. And the next day, Chacha, I don't know if you saw that the next day after that, there was no quorum in Parliament. Just to show you, we still have issues that are pending here. We have a high cost of living. Just in case our legislators do not have a bit of a sense of what's going on, what is demanded by Kenyan citizens, we would like you to use the same speed to address the high cost of living, the overtaxation. We know that today when you go, you're going and you're trying to access education, for example. We're seeing a new funding model that has quite a bit of loopholes there. Many people are not able to access education. And yet we need to be able to support education, to offer education, because without this education then, you are not able to actually afford the taxes that we are talking about today. Someone who is working on a pay slip will pay 30% of income tax. You have 16% VAT, then you have 5% of other taxes. We are here complaining we do not have taxes, we're bringing Adani in, and yet we are not addressing the root cause of why we are not able to cultivate a healthy tax base, right? We are making education completely inaccessible. You have university students the other day. I saw parents who are, let's say, a mama mboga who has never even seen 20,000 shillings in their life. And then today you want them to pay over 40,000 per year for access to education. Or you have a sitting cabinet secretary who is telling us that they're in fact promoting brain drain, right? They're saying, oh, come, we're going to ship you off to the Middle East or ship you off to Germany and other places. You have unemployment being a big crisis instead of addressing how we can nurture talent here. It is a very hostile environment. Chacha, you know, I spent a lot of time going to school in a lot of this country and I'm home. Why do you think I'm home? I'm home because there's no place like home. You see, we had cases in Lebanon where bombs and airstrikes are coming through and a lot of our Kenyans are stuck there. Why? Because their employers have their passports. They cannot even leave the countries that are in turmoil. These are the issues that we would like to see this government, these MPs sit down and address and come up with solutions. We have parents who are selling land to pay for school. We have skills that are needed everywhere. So when you tell us the skilled, A, you don't give us access to education, B, the skilled workers that are there, then you tell us, let's take these skills and then ship them off somewhere. We are an economy that is run by the service industry. Where do you think the service industry gets its pull from? It is from this education. So you're sitting here with a dysfunctioning education model. You're sitting here with a dysfunctioning health system. You had people going in and saying, because now we're moving to shift from NHIF, people are not able to access dialysis. The government is coming and saying, no, it's okay. And people on the ground are saying, no, we're not able to access this. And yet you're sitting here discussing impeachment of Gachagua. I think it's the biggest demonstration of misplaced priorities.
Arnold.
Yes.
Gachagua. First of all, President William Ruto has remained tight-lipped about Gashagua's matter. Yesterday, they were to share a podium. That did not happen, maybe tactfully. And he's set now to appear before the Senate. But he seems to be keen to use the judiciary from blocking his ouster. This argument that Gachagua should remain in office until at least all the 22 cases are heard and determined, what do you make of it? And as well, you know, he's also attempting to block the swearing in of any replacement or deputy president nominee in the case that is ousted.
You know, courts over time, and actually the legislature established a precedent, of course, in respect to the separation of powers, that you cannot stop the legislature from doing its work, its constitutional work. There were various attempts in the past, and the legislature robustly resisted that, and courts have come to actually respect that. So you can't, for example, go to court, to court and then ask court to tell parliament not to be parliament if they are going to look at something. And that is why a lot of those applications were about that. And for good reason, because there's been a precedent in the past, the courts moved away. The impeachment process is a political process. And even if he goes to court, the courts are simply going to look at the processes and the procedure. That is where they will not be in a place where they are going to substantiate some of those claims. That is why the word substantiation, as opposed to proving, becomes the byword that runs the conversations when it comes to impeachment in the House. Now, the pre-trial chamber, which is the National Assembly, has actually looked at those allegations and cleared those charges and forwarded them to the trial chamber, which is the Senate in this particular case. And it's laughable, of course, for the deputy president to say that he has got faith in the judiciary. You just need to look at January of this year. He bashed the judiciary left, right, and center. He's been on record before bashing the judiciary. If you look at the address he made at his residence the other day with the media that evening, he showered the media with a lot of praises and everything else. A man who didn't have so much love for the media, for the mainstream media, now all of a sudden was telling the media how they are doing good work and they should actually proceed.
I was actually present.
Yes, so politicians should also not run with the hares and then hunt with the hounds. They must actually decide where they belong. The media cannot be good.
So all of a sudden, Gachagua is now friendly to the media also.
When his fate is at stake, now the media is good and he's supporting them. Now the judiciary that he was bashing the other day, there was a project, a road project that the courts, for a reason, of course, of a Kenyan who is aggrieved, had stopped, I think, a 4.4 billion or something like that road. In January, see how he bashed that. He's had run-ins with the judiciary a lot of times. And you know, politicals, even those who work for political parties, know so well, and this is a maxim that we must actually operate by, that when you are in power, you must come up with laws that if you were to go to bed and you are not in power tomorrow, then your worst enemy is actually in power. You should actually sleep at peace. But then when the instruments and the frameworks of governance that we gave ourselves only make sense when they are of advantage to us, we honestly are not very, very open people. Or rather, we are not very honest people. So now, I think the deputy president must make up a decision of what he wants. First of all, he went on a war front. Went everywhere, tried to polarize. Remember, he went around Nairobi, sparring up and riling the base, doing rallies that were supposed to have the public, of course, up and angry in the lead up to this. He was in Githurai. We saw the kind of words he actually put against this particular government. He was on a warpath and was doing serious beating war drums. So you cannot dare the president to impeach you and then badai unasema atikwani hawajui jokes. You know, the deputy president must actually be
But
serious.
it's not for forgiveness if at all that offended the president.
After he went on a warpath, you forgot one thing, that first of all he went on a warpath, dared for impeachment. And then when he realized it was serious, akaanza kusema kwani hamjui jokes, then he moves very fast and he's like anaomba msamaha. And then actually that's not even hakuomba msamaha.
President William Ruto is a believer.
He said if.
President William Ruto is a believer.
We want to mix. The Constitution of Kenya.
The Bible says you can forgive as many times as possible.
Let us not conflate issues here. There is the Constitution of Kenya. Then William Ruto is the president. Parliament, which is an independent body, by the way,
it is not independent
has decided it cannot be independent when you want and not independent when you don't want. So Parliament is doing its work. We can actually say it's doing the Lord's work, if you wish, if you want to go that particular direction. So Parliament has decided that they're impeaching him. If the president interferes, then we then can go forth and justify the line she wants to run with, that Parliament is not independent. And by the way, even our own members of Parliament, including our whip, Osoro.
So in your opinion, you think so far President William Ruto cannot save Gachagua from his woes?
The only place he can actually come through. Remember, there was an attempt to even call a parliamentary group for our members of Parliament. Our members of Parliament said they will not attend. Remember, we had a parliamentary group that you guys were supposed to cover. You remember that? But our members of Parliament, including the whip said he will not call members of Parliament because this is a parliamentary business. The party and the president should stay off.
So President William Ruto has lost control of his UDA members.
It's not about control. That is not a
basically
party issue.
That is
for us as a party, we are waiting. For us as a party, wait. But then it's the role of Parliament. For us as a party, we are waiting for Friday. And then whatever happens in that Thursday night, we will decide whether the deputy president remains on the party register or not. That is where we have got
so even after he's impeached at the Senate, he'll also lose his position as the deputy party leader. Because
then if those allegations are substantiated by a house like the Senate, we as a party, one of the things that we are supposed to do as a party is to uphold the rule of law. If the Senate can actually remove him as a serving deputy president, we as a party will actually have to uphold the rule of law and ensure that he's not on the register.
Let's see what Kenyans are saying. Via social media platforms at K24 TV, at Joel Chacha Zolo, and SMS and WhatsApp numbers on the bottom of your screens. Let's have them up. Director Joanne, Larry, Raila Odinga always did great. I have no problem with this man, and that's why I forgive him for siding with Ruto despite losing an uncle in 2013 due to demos. But what he's doing beyond there, he's destroying all what he built. Mwakisha, Raila hutumia wa Kenya kuwa bargaining chips. That's why hapendi hata kushinda uchaguzi. Basically saying Raila is never keen on winning an election. Kitani Daniel, hope the next president will cancel these deals on the first day in office. We pray he won't tolerate these types of nonsense and will Adani bear whole responsibilities for any inconveniences. This deal and its rash smells. Francis Kennedy, I'm the only one who never trusts people who read speeches. I mean, it implies whatever is read is not coming from the heart, but rather written to impress or mislead, as what is happening here. Salim Zain, I thought Raila Odinga retired from active politics to focus on the AU. Kumbe the guy has come back to defend Adani. This guy is the greatest problem we have in this country. Chris, who asks for Raila or who asked for Raila's opinion on serious matters. Raila's development can be clearly seen in Kibra. Serious matters like Adani should be discussed by business analysts, lawyers, etc. Career, Baba has sentenced Adani. We are doomed. If we don't take action immediately, I see this Gachagua impeachment as a boon that will spark something unknown. Cliff OJ, Raila is not interested in the AUC thing. Let me steal for you the secret today. Acha niwaibie siri leo. Well, he's keeping himself busy in the eyes of Kenyans, while in the real sense, he's the one behind almost everything happening in Kenya today, including Gachagua's impeachment and the Adani deal. By the way, Sheila, you know, since the broad-based government took over, it's when you're seeing the impeachment going through, you know, the Adani deals going through. Was this the main aim of bringing Raila on board? Yeah. And also the consequences that President Ruto is likely to suffer if Gachagua is impeached or removed from office? And also, in the event that it backfires?
I think, Chacha, what we are seeing today is a case where the political class is so out of touch with what is going on in this country. It is almost amusing. I think, Arnold, when you're speaking and you're speaking about the party and UDA and all those things, you have to understand that there's a bigger person in the picture in this conversation, which is we, the people. It is we, the people. And when we're sitting here, and you can see even from the comments that are coming through, that 85% of Kenyans are currently living in poverty. That is the problem we would like to be addressed. We are sitting here and seeing a case where we have this broad-based government where you have ODM saying they're not in government, they're in opposition, but at the same time the lines are a bit confusing. I alluded to the fact that the executive being in bed with the legislature is the biggest problem we have now, because then we have legislators who are more concerned about voting party lines and not asking questions and not listening. You have seen, you cover the news a lot. What is going on to some members of parliament who are going back home, having signed this impeachment motion? Have you been trying to see a little bit of what is going on? And yet, we are trying to say that we elected these people to go and represent what we are trying to say. I think it's almost sad to see, I think as many people are expressing here, it's almost sad to see that there's a lack of principle of the people that we elected in order to represent what we want. Gachagua's impeachment, and I repeat this for free, is not a priority in this country. It will not solve anything. It will not help anything. What we want is we want to understand, why is this government killing our education system? You are a product of education. I am a product of education. Arnold is a product of education. So when we are killing education in a country where 60% of its economy revolves around the service industry, right? 19% is in agriculture. We are having scandals of agriculture where we had soil being brought in, the CS was not even impeached. We have cases where you have 16% in manufacturing, and we're not asking ourselves how are we boosting these issues. I think I don't even want to do justice by getting into, you know, why Gachagua is doing this and doing that. I think in 2027 there will be a rude awakening in this country, because we are here and we are trying to scream and say, why are there abductions? There has been no justice since we had the protests going on. Well, where is the president in all of these matters? Why are we not addressing these issues? And instead we are sitting here discussing, oh, Gachagua was in Githurai saying this or that. No, I mean, it is the same. It is the two of them that are taking responsibility. Well, we are beginning to wind up, even as I know you have rejoined us.
I had so many things to say, but I think
quickly.
So quick, number one. Once you are elected, the first thing that you do, and you are expected, of course, procedurally, is, of course, to take care of administrative processes like formation of government. So in this particular issue, for us as a party, we do not consider the impeachment something that is big. It's a small issue that, of course, the media has blown out of context, because it's housekeeping. So if the
removal of deputy president is housekeeping.
If the constitution allowed us, we will go the South African way. We will deal with it at party level. Unfortunately, the constitution.
But there was
let me just.
There is an internal dispute resolution committee. Gachagua did not face that.
That is why it is a parliamentary process. That is why once it comes out of that and we are seized of it, we will run with what we are supposed to do very fast. What we think is that this is a small housekeeping issue. That's why even the president has not lent his voice to it, because the president is busy with other things that are actually happening.
7 million people voted. It's not a small issue.
Again, we cannot personalize public office. We cannot. You've just complained here about the people you elected. Over 14 million people voted for different offices. Right. You're already complaining about the people you voted for. So when you have got an opportunity, and that is why, for example, once IBC is reconstituted, one of those things we expect to see Kenyans actually put to proof is actually recalling members of parliament. Already there's a framework on how you can recall MCAs. We've not seen anyone actually move and start recalling MCAs, but you can actually...
The issue here, Arnold, I believe, is the priorities.
No, what we're talking about...
Because that was the first time, honestly, I'm always in parliament.
No. Yes.
I'm always in parliament.
Chacha,
that's the first time we had over 300 MPs.
Chacha, let me ask you here.
In the National Assembly.
Parliament does not always work by plenary. It works by committees also, too.
And in most committees, there is never a quorum.
Have you looked at...
In most cases, there is no quorum on important
Have you looked at
committees.
The order paper? That's not always true. Again, you are running around like a politician. You've spent a lot of time with the politicians. You've become a politician. Look at this.
You can say
have you looked at the order paper today, for example? The order paper. Have you looked at the order paper today? How do we have the agenda prosecuted every day? How do we have those motions moving?
Order paper.
On the order paper, for example, look at it. There are so many things that are actually listed up. Why are we picking one that the media has decided to give so much space
Arnold,
and making it
now
so
that we have the
Arnold,
benefit of clarifying, the MPs have already proceeded on a recess, 2 weeks recess.
Yes.
During the period that they resumed, what is the biggest thing that they have handled that impacts the Mwananchi directly?
How much was on the order paper?
Can you cite the biggest thing so far they've done?
So the impeachment
in completion.
There's so much.
Maybe the first a bill from the first reading.
This is the thing. We cannot make Parliament convening and doing an impeachment process to make it look like that is the biggest thing they've ever done this year. We've had a finance bill. Remember that in running government, for example, in running government, there are other attendant frameworks that they passed. Because government will not be afloat today if Parliament wasn't working, because our budget is actually a legislative process. Everything, including the expenditure, must be legislated. So whatever is happening today, even the country remaining afloat after coming from a political impasse like the finance bill that we had, having the June 25th, and the issues that she's raised, and of course she's stuck on the issue of abductions, and that I think is an issue that we also, parliamentarians really need to actually come back and do justice to that issue, so that then we don't run with that issue for so long. This is the point. This is the point, that the impeachment of a deputy president is a small issue. We are giving it too much bandwidth in the media. There are other agendas in the House that we are not focusing on. And that is giving it too much currency unnecessarily. Of course, it's a prominent issue, but it shouldn't be here. Like, for example, look at this. Look at this. This was not published by the Parliament of Kenya. It was published by the People Daily. That is Media Max, here at K24 where we are. This, for me, is more important.
And that's why
this is more important, but you've given it as a sidebar.
No problem.
You've raised it here,
and that's
but
why
you're bringing
on this
it here.
Show, we've taken 30 minutes to discuss the NGCDF matter.
Yes, but look at the headline. Look at your headline. If it's the splash, you are running with this. So the point is this, that this particular issue is important, yes. It's of priority because government cannot run if one cog is not functioning very well.
To talk about Adani for 30 minutes equal to...
I'm talking about this paper. I'm talking about the paper. Look at this, NGCDF, this one here. I'm talking about, look at where it is here. The splash should have been this, because these people here
that is an editorial
do serious work.
Well,
yes, that's what I'm saying. This was not published by Parliament or UDA.
Yes.
Today, the embattled K24 Governor Eric Mutai will be facing the Senate. In fact, today being on a Monday and Tuesday, where he's first of all complaining that the Senate is processing this motion despite court orders. There was a court order that the Speaker of the County Assembly should not submit the resolution of the County Assembly to the Speaker of the Senate, and as well the Senate Speaker Amason Kingi should not receive and process. However, all those have happened. Could it be because the majority leader Aaron Cheriot comes from that particular county? And so perhaps they're bulldozing their way disregarding court orders, much as, yes, this is an impeachment.
Right. I think, of course, that is a line of thinking that we have to look at it and consider that if it wasn't Cheriot who was sitting there, would we still have moved in a similar direction? I think contrary to what is going on at national level, you have Kericho County that is run by MCAs in Kericho County, and of course constitutionally they are empowered, like we are discussing, to be able to impeach their governor if they feel that is what is necessary. The MCA's job is to oversight the county government. And contrary, if Kericho feels through their MCAs that this is the priority that they need to be addressing right now, and if there's burden of proof, then why not? However, if it's an unfair impeachment, that should not be the case. But I think this is a question of now a devolved impeachment within a county setting by MCAs, like we were saying that MCAs should always be empowered to oversight and impeach where they feel necessary. But again, we're discussing a question of when the rule of law applies and when then we can look at it and then look on the side. But I think personally, because I'm not coming from Kericho County, if the MCAs feel that this is something they need to be focused on, I'm much more likely to believe MCAs in Kericho County that this is a priority than believe that all these members that are sitting in the National Assembly had nothing better to do. We still don't have a lot of information. As recent as yesterday, we are having abductions still going on, and nobody's sitting here and asking why are you abducting the citizens of this country. That is not considered a priority. We are sitting here as well with cases of police brutality. These cases are yet, I have not seen not one person come up front and be prosecuted for these things.
As we wind up, on the matter of the Kericho governor impeachment,
I think
the threshold was not met, 31.
And that is why...
Actually, is the number of MCAs who supported the motion against the threshold of 32. Also on the issue of court orders, is the Senate disregarding court orders and still going ahead to,
the Senate
focus on this matter?
The Senate, you see, this impeachment thing, we are almost sounding as if impeachment is unconstitutional. It's constitutional. We gave ourselves
on the court orders.
So, and the second thing is there's the place of the rule of law. Now, the good thing about impeachment and what the Senate has done and what the County Assembly did is that if there's a place of strength when you go to court over an issue like this, is the process. So if the process does not meet the constitutional threshold, then definitely the work they have done will actually be all in vain. We still have got Kawira, for example, in court. We have got people who have actually been impeached successfully, like the Deputy Governor of Kisii, for example, and even replaced. Well, there are others who have been impeached and remain in office. We have got Wambora, who was impeached so many times and he still survived. So I am not worried about that. But then the impeachment process, as it were, is constitutional, is in law. We gave ourselves, and if MCAs, MPs, and even senators at different levels and for whatever purpose choose to do it, they are doing part and parcel of what is their work.
Thank you.
And we should not fault them.
Well, that's Arnold Maliba, Head of Policy and Public Affairs, UDA Party. Sheila Olang, economist and political analyst. Zaki Nudia did not make it for this show. He's actually a former Chief Administrative Secretary. It has been a conversation on the state of the nation. My name is Joel Chacha. This is Newdon. Do enjoy the rest of our viewing. Good day.
Mr. DJ, Mr. DJ. Lucky.